Right, book review, Beloved by Toni Morrison. Just right off the bat, this was such a great book. There was so much depth to it. It was just great all around, from the plot to the characters, to the context of the story. It takes place in a post-Civil War society in America, where there's still a lot of slavery, and it follows a slave named Sede, and how she's kind of haunted by the ghost of her daughter, which is very jarring and it's very alarming for me at least. It was very alarming at first. Like, that's not something I thought I would find in a book called Beloved. um, but yeah, that was just something that was very it really stood out to me, and it really drew me in. It was a great hook for the story. Um, and yeah, so let's just start getting into it. Okay, so for the summary of Beloved, it's a novel that's set, like I said earlier, after the American Civil War, and it follows Sede, who is a woman who escaped slavery, and she lives with her daughter, Denver, in a house in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, this house is believed to be haunted by, like I said earlier, by a very evil and wicked, malevolent spirit who is believed to be Sede's dead daughter, whose name is Beloved. Seve also remains haunted by her traumatic past despite escaping slavery, which kind of, would symbolize escaping slavery, just being done with all the hardship, finally being free. But that wasn't the case for Seve. The book is split into three parts, with the first one, it showcases and tells about Seve's past, and it's just in a list of her flashbacks, how she escaped slavery, which was a very dangerous feat for her to do. And it was very costly too, because she initially was able to escape her Kentucky plantation called the Sweet Home, but then eventually was brought back by the slave owners. She got caught. And because she didn't want her daughters to return to the horrors of slavery, she killed her daughter. So basically, she was like, my daughter, infant daughter is better off dying and not living her life than going back to slavery. Another former slave named Paul D comes to try to console Seve and help her deal with such a hard past. And all is going kind of well until this woman whose name is Beloved comes and just completely disrupts the peace for Sede. All right, part two delves a lot deeper into the past traumatic experience of Sede, and also Paul D too. It talks about his past experiences with slavery and his troubles. However, Beloved's presence, the new Beloved's presence, it causes just a lot of tension, and it sparks a lot of guilt in Sede, and it puts a heavy strain on her and Paul D's relationship, which is explored a lot in part two. Now, since Sede is so guilty, she tries to please the new Beloved in any way, because in a way that's making up for the terrible, awful things she had to do to her daughter, and it's like a coping mechanism in that way for Sede. Now, the novel reaches its climax in part three, and this is when Sede realizes the plight of her situation, and that we cannot have Beloved being part of her life is just not healthy. It's not good for her at all. So her daughter Denver gets, with support of other women of the local community, they all come together and they essentially exorcise Beloved for I guess the malevolent ghost, apparition or whatever that she is. And basically this leads to a road of healing and recovery for Sede, and the denouncement, the end of the story, which leaves a very ambiguous ending, which that I find a little bit of a letdown, honestly. But because I would just kind of expected, I kind of wanted to hear more about how Sede would recover from that. But I guess ending being a little ambiguous kind of throws me off. But yeah, and that's kind of about part three, and it just shows how she ventures into the new in this new world Sede does, and just how she navigates that. So for my review, I'm gonna review three scenes from each part of the book, with number one being the arrival of this new Beloved onto 124 Bluestone Road, which is the house that Sede lives on. Now, this event is very pivotal in the book because it kind of marks the physical manifestation of all these feelings of guilt and shame that Sede feels about what she did to her daughter. Now, Beloved is actually a ghost of Sede's dead daughter, and her arrival, it very much disrupts the stability of Sede's life, the very, very fragile stability of Sede's life, and it forces her to confront her very traumas that she otherwise would have just kept deep down and had to live with their whole life. It introduces like the novel's like central conflict kind of, which is like either Seth's desire to move forward or like just like dwell on her past, her inescapable past. Some impact it had, the character development, Beloved's presence, it really like reveals like the layers of Seth's guilt, her love. If she didn't love her daughters, I don't think she would have felt like an ounce of the guilt and shame that she's feeling. Like, her desperation, and it also makes her more sympathetic and a real character, which something that I love about Toni Morrison's writings, while her characters are deeply flawed as shown in Sede, they make her like more relatable and understanding, as they're not just these picture perfect story characters. This is like, it's almost could be like a real story. It really embodies like the horrors of slavery in a great way. Also, it adds like the plot progression. It sets off like a chain of like events that intensify the novel's like progression in emotional depth, and it just drives the narrative forward. Now, for my second event, in the second part of the book, I'm gonna dive deeper into the flashback of the actual event when Sede killed her daughter. Now, without getting too gruesome into it, basically, Sede had to kill her daughter with the handsaw, and this was very, very, very alarming. Like I said earlier, just I remember as reading it, just my jaw was just wide open. I was so shocked to read about this. It was very tragic, and honestly, it was like it really exposed like the unimaginable cruelty of slavery that it impacted, even like children. This second scene was very impactful in the book, as it provided like really deep insight into Sede's character. It explains her motivations and like her very, very intense maternal love for her child, that she would go to like such great length just to protect her child from these terrifying horrors of slavery, and that exemplifies a theme of like motherhood and sacrifice, and like the devastating horrors of slavery. For some symbolism, this act symbolizes extreme brutal choices brought up by like just anyone that's going through some terrible sort of oppression. And it also like explains the origin of Beloved's haunting, which further like intensifies these tensions in the book. And my third and final event that I'm gonna really kind of dig deeper into is the exorcism of Beloved. Now, this was a huge, like I said, turning point in the story. It was the climax, as it symbolized just kind of Sede letting go of her past traumas, and just like all like her hardships, mainly involving her daughter. So kind of as Beloved fades away, as the women of the community come together and exercise her grip on all these traumatic experiences also just slowly gets weaker and weaker. And while she does heal, it's still not like a full like eradication of these events from her memory. Now, this is why the importance of it lies in community and healing, contributing to the theme, one of the themes in the story, that a supportive community can help you overcome anything. Now, this finally brings the story to a resolution. It just it resolves everything, but not really for Sede, because while the ending is really ambiguous, and it shows how like she kind of just has to like grow and heal from this. I still rate the story a 5 out of 5. I thought there was so much emotional depth to it, more than any book I've ever read. I also loved how it explored like human spirit and like resilience and stuff. That's something that I found extremely interesting in this novel, and yeah, it was just overall a fantastic read.